Hi, folks. This is Isla from the new federal state of China. Welcome to our special program, Miles Trial. We will be live on weekdays from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to bring you most recent updates about Miles School's trial, which is currently taking place in the Southern District of New York, and the courtroom is 26B. His trial is fully open to the public. We encourage everybody to go onto our websites to look at the transcripts and to follow us on Rumble, on Alpha TV, on Getter, on X, to follow us for more updates about Mr. Miles Guo, the founder of the new federal state of China, and his current trial. And as many of you might have been aware, Mr. Guo was indicted by the United States with 12 federal counts. Most of the counts were related to financial charges. The government bears the burden to prove all of these allegations. This is actually the day 20 of Mr. Miles' trial. At this moment, the government has still been bringing new, witnesses, including former employees, individuals who claimed to be victims of this case, and also many of these FBI agents to bring to testify in the court. And so we will now get connected with Max, who actually attended the court and now live at the outside of the Southern District of New York.
Hey, Ayla, it's great to be back reporting live to you from the Southern District of New York. How's it going?
Great, Max. Thanks so much for coming. All of us understand that yesterday was a public holiday, so we do not have heard anything from the court yesterday. So brief us, a little bit of, this week and how, things resumed this morning. Obviously, I was aware that the government today brought more witnesses, and most of them were, FBI agents. So tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to give you guys a brief rundown, it's been a very, very hectic day. Forgive me if I'm constantly referencing to my notes. We actually did bring in 4 new witnesses today, 3 of them being FBI agents. And because we recessed at 2:30 and I'm here after the recess, I can assume that they're probably going to bring on a 5th one, which probably makes it the most jam-packed day in terms of number of witnesses so far.
Right, Max. So we were aware that since the first day of Mr. Miles' trial, the government has kept calling different witnesses. Many of them were FBI agents, and some of these FBI agents, testimony, either direct questioning or cross-examining, it was very short. And so brief us a little bit on the new witnesses that were being introduced in the court today. On the other side, I want to remind all of our audience, it seems to us that the government had spent lots of time in introducing new evidences, new witnesses to the court, while the judge actually estimates the trial to get closed on July the 12th, which was less than a month. Max, tell us a little bit about the first 2 witnesses that were being introduced this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to give you guys a little recap, on Tuesday when people ended the court, we were just finishing up with the 21st witness. She was the CEO of G Clubs. Her name is Leah Marie Reyes. We finished with that witness on Tuesday, and today we actually begun court with the start of the 22nd witness, who's Miss Gale, a FBI analyst, and she was responsible for also taking some photos within the March 15 seizure, like the search and search of the Sherry apartment. So she was responsible for providing the government with some documentation and some photographs of what happened during that seizure. So, like you said, it was a very, very brief process. The cross-examination had begun by 10:10, which is roughly 40 minutes, give or take. And by the time that 11 o'clock rolled around, we had already introduced the 23rd witness, Elizabeth Burstler, who was a client service associate at Morgan Stanley for 16 years. So she was more so the financial side in relationship to what had actually gone on in terms of uh, wire transfers between like Fiesta Properties and G Clubs, etc. So she gave the government a bit more to build upon that. And yeah, like you said, these are very, very short witnesses. Mind you, that we were informed that the government might have brought 17 witnesses, but today I can assume that they're already bringing on their 26th so far. So yeah, like I'd love to get into a bit more specifics, but I just wanted to let everyone know that Mr. Miles is also doing very, very well, as he always is. Just to give everyone some reassurance, he came in today sporting like a dark gray suit, complemented by a light blue tie and a white dress shirt. He's in high spirits, like we reported last week. He was seen hugging and even kissing some of the members of his defense counsel on the cheek. We can only assume it was probably because hopefully by the end of this week we can see some of the defense witnesses stand on trial and testify as well.
Absolutely. Well, that's the part that many of our supporters are looking forward to see that in the trial, right? And so Max,
Absolutely.
tell us, if you observe any of the arguments that the government was trying to make through the first two witnesses. Obviously, we understand that the search and seizure of some of the assets that took place on March 15th was brought up again. Were there any photos, or any documentations related to that search were being presented in the court today?
Yeah, so well, we found a lot of the evidence to be represented. In fact, today there was a lot of repetition and redundancy in the evidence that was represented. But for this Miss Gale, the FBI analyst who was responsible for taking some of the photos, they were just looking to extrapolate some more information based on the photos that she was taking. So, for example, she was taking some documentation, some notepads, some legal writings based on, for example, things showing vehicles that were bought, like the Ducati, the Bugatti, the camper van. They mentioned the Rule of Law Foundation, the Rule of Law Society donations, and some things to do with G clubs. They were also trying to extrapolate the correlation between Miles's seizure as well as Yvette Wang. So there were some documentations and passports that belonged to Yvette Wang, and just some miscellaneous stuff, like for example, the fact that there were Hermes apparel just lying around, all to paint like this picture of Mr. Miles Guo being a very extravagant man. But that was essentially the argument that they were trying to make, or they were just trying to build some more details regarding the seizure. So when we came to the cross exam at 10:10, the main purpose was to attack the solidity of her documentation. Was it complete and accurate? To which she had some shaky answers to. She said that it wasn't really accurate notes to the testimony. She wasn't keeping much accurate notes. The second argument was that to whether or not question her knowledge and ability to actually speak upon the evidence. Because keep in mind, she was just a photographer. All she knew what was going on was to take photos based on what people were, like the FBI agents were presenting to her. So her testimony didn't hold much substance, as revealed by the cross. She couldn't actually have the authority to speak on what was actually going on, what was being presented. And there was a lot of contextual errors as well. For example, the Hermes was more so implied to be like gift boxes and whatnot. Just to give you guys an example, a lot of these things were basically contextualized by the cross. And like we said, it was just the photos being shared.
Absolutely, Max. It was very important for us to, mind all those details, right? Some of the evidences kept showing up again in the court. And, we've observed that, some of the music videos were played again in the court, earlier on as well. And so, this is important, how government has been organizing their witnesses and their testimony and all of the evidences to be presented in the court. And I think that tells you different paces of, whether the government has done, the best homework that they can do, and how the defense actually cut the chase, to defend for Miles through its solidity of the testimony. And I think that marks everybody. And so, brief us a little bit more on the interaction that you observe, from Miles, his defendant team, and any of these reactions from the jurors. We understand that this is a lengthy trial, marks almost 7 weeks. I would believe some of the jurors now get into more knowledge about Miles and about the background of this case now.
Yeah, for sure. And that's super important to hold like this favor of the court, this juror to have like a character, because like you said, a lot of this trial has been just sitting in the courtroom, and there's not much to go after, except for like how they present themselves. And Miles has always been very, very presentable. He's always been very charismatic, and I just wanted to like touch on a little bit about what happened in terms of reactions in witness number 2, because Scott was doing our lawyer Scott was doing the cross examination of Miss Elizabeth, the banker, and there was a moment in time when he was about to ask a question and then he withdrew, and then the government objected and he said, "Oh, are you objecting to my withdrawal?" And to the point where everyone in the court was laughing, even the judge, you can hear her laughing like crazy. The jurors are laughing, and it just goes to show like the elevation that our defense counsel has presented to constantly be in favor of the court, to constantly show in good faith. And this has also impacted the way that they're cross-examining these witnesses, because they're always asking questions in good faith, and to even allow them to build rapport with them and allow them to share information that they wouldn't normally share to the jurors.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great to hear details, of that. Our defense lawyer was able to bring that sense of humor to the court, and gives, the court a different vibe and a different atmosphere when a witness was, being given the testimony. So Max, thank you so much for bringing us live updates. We're very happy and I'm very appreciative of your efforts and the time today. We hope to see you again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for letting me share this brief overview. Like I said, it's been a very long day, so hopefully the panel can dive into the rest of the witnesses that I didn't get a chance to yet. Thank you again.
Absolutely. Max, thank you so much. So, folks, if you're curious about any of these updates of Miles' trial, you can follow us on the program Miles Trial on Alpha TV on Getter. You could also follow us on our X account and Getter account at NFSC Speak. If you follow our handle, you will be able to receive timely updates about Mr. Guo's trial updates, and as well as any other exclusive intelligence that the new federal state of China may bring you on a frequent basis. So follow us on NFSC Speak. All of the court documents, including transcripts, will be public on our website, nfscofficial.com. So now let's welcome Ava and Kevin to the studio to join our panel discussion so that we can dive into more details about the witnesses and the government's argument today.
Hi, hello. Hi, everyone. Hi, Kevin.
Hi, Eva. Hi, Eva. Thanks for having me again.
Absolutely. So, Ava, brief us a little bit, right? Because Max did give us, some of the logistics about the court today. We knew that 3 FBI agents came to the court, and then one lady from Morgan Stanley came to testify about some of the entities that were mentioned. And so let's jump into, the arguments that you observe from, the first FBI agent who actually managed the search and helped at taking the photographs.
For sure. So yeah, I would agree with Max that today is a very hectic day. Although there's a lot of, the pace of change is fast. As a little bit, up to 2:30, we already had the 4th witness came to the podium. So and change, every single one of the witnesses probably just being examined combined probably less than 2 hours. So so for the first the search regarding the apartment of the co-conspirator in this case, not Miles Guo himself, but Yvette Wang, I would agree to the assessment. I mean, the government is still relying on the same tactic. Mm-hmm. Basically, because they do not have a direct evidence or something to present, so they're trying to take an advantage of people's bias. So they're presenting an image, and they want to rely on the human being's nature of human being to fill the blanks. Give you an example. They on the photos they show Hermes. Boxes and boxes of Hermes and scarves. They're like a lot. People would, and then the direct prosecutor was asking, are they a luxury brand? And then the witness said, yeah, as far as I know, it's a very luxury brand. And then and they asked her to see whether these are the receipts or the tags. So, but anyway, what was in the context, there is a card, there's a holiday card lying on the picture. And it came across that all of those boxes are actually might be gifts. And particularly if you recall, like March is just the second month after Chinese New Year, right? And this tie into another photo where they showed a bunch of money, like a notes, like a denominated in 20s, 50s, and 100s, and also the Chinese currencies, and in red envelope, right? So we know what red envelope stands for, especially in that special holidays of Chinese Spring Festival, right? It's a gift to usually people giving staffs, relatives, or younger kids at the family, right? So, but they don't dive into the context. They just show the picture and let basically the jury fill the blanks. So I'm very thankful that our cross counsel, which was Sabrina, and she basically spotted on, and she examined the details of the picture, including the scarf, including the card, including the ribbon, and showing that these boxes, a majority of them are actually unopened. These are ribboned and ready to give as a gift. It's not for personal luxury consumption, as the prosecuting team wanted to present and leave the impression for the jury. But the other things, it's very interesting. There is a notepad, so notepad like regular notepad, and there's 3 of them stacked together, slightly twisted, so we can see only portion of the notes written on the first at the bottom, on the first notepad and second, but we can see the full page of the top notepad. And on the top notepad, Sabrina picked the details because there is a box. There's particularly emphasized, there's a box circled, and inside the box, a lot of the inked content on that notes was redacted. Okay, so we don't see what was it, what is it, what is written on it. But the information showing, it's on the top. It says civil rights, and then SEC, and then CCP, and a check. And that's what it's shown. And then Sabrina asked the witness, do you know what does this mean? And she has no clue. As Max has already shared, she cannot speak to what's on those photos, like items, and because she only had a really limited knowledge. And she was the photographer that was asked by the special agent inside room for taking the photos. Yeah.
Right, so to my understanding, many of these FBI agents, they were only doing part of their job, meaning that none of these FBI agents who came to the court actually told the juror a full story of how that search happened and why the photograph was taken over there. It seems to me that, any of these FBI agents were only do part of their, a part of the search mission, right? They take photos, or they issue the search warrant, or they communicate with the defendant. And so when they came to the court to testify, they could only tell their part to the public. And so, Kevin, when you saw all these photos that were being presented in the court, what's your first impression? And were there any of these reactions that you observed from the jurors? Because obviously, cash, right? Hermes scarves from luxury brands, these could cause people have typical impression and might have, stronger attitudes towards certain things when the photos were being taken in the search.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, just me and all the jurors and everyone else in the courtroom had a feeling of, deja vu, like, oh, here we go again, with all the evidence and the photos where, we have the witnesses that are all, have very localized testimonies. So they only have the knowledge that, at the time of the scene they were at, and in court they don't testify to what they know. And like we've seen, they don't really know very much, right? And, like Ava and Max mentioned before too, the prosecution's strategy is just to keep doing the same thing over and over again, right? Try to paint a picture, and then we have the defense trying to clear that picture up, right? Like you mentioned with the Hermes bags and the scarves and everything, they were all just gifts, right? And we only know that because during the cross, Sabrina was able to clear that up. Otherwise, we would just have a completely different picture. And so, like I mentioned, that's just a strategy over and over again, and it is getting a bit stale, but it shows just how the prosecution is grasping at straws.
Right. And so I would imagine that with all of these cross and direct examination of the FBI agents came to actually very short, actually, comparing to, other witnesses that they have brought into the court, former employees, claimed victims. These FBI agents' testimony appeared to be, quite short and precise. And so what are the further arguments that the government was trying to make through the lady from Morgan Stanley? Because obviously there appear another witness who came with a financial background and maybe present some financial documents.
Yeah, so I think the second lady actually, yes, her title on the signature on the email, she's a senior customer service associate at Morgan Stanley, and she had 16 years of working experience. So I think it's through her, the prosecutor team wanted to paint a picture that when there's a lot of wire transfers, first of all. So she helped handling multiple wire transfers. Okay, and from G Club bank accounts to others, okay, pertaining to whatever loan agreements or whatever. But one of the things particularly jumps out for me in her testimony is the prosecutor team basically zoomed in one particular transfer, and that transfer actually it shouldn't be one. It's actually 3 transfers, but for one purpose. Okay. So and it was flagged by the Morgan Stanley compliance department. So the compliance department sent an email to this lady. Elizabeth is her first name, and she then forward the email to the sender, which is her. Okay, the G Club owner, UBO, her, and basically, sorry, not her, the controller of G Club, Alex H, and ask him to clarify what is the wire purpose, what's the money transfer for. So, and then Alex replied and use quite a tentative tone describing what this basically the purpose is for this wire. So this wire is from G Club Operation LLC to another entity called Fiesta Developer Property, which owned by this the UBO named her based in UK, and they are possibly looking into entering to a deal, a plan to purchase a real estate property. And then they also in the same email mentioned about loan payment as well. Okay, so this is the structured loan payment, blah blah, and then the lady, basically this Elizabeth, this banking specialist associate, took that information, took upon herself and rewrite it and filled a report for internal use of Morgan Stanley's compliance team. They call it fraud department. So basically she summarized it, say this is a while for a affiliated entity for real estate transactions. So that's the purpose. So in her describing of this wire, she omits all the possible plan, like those tentative kind of terms, prospective terms, right? She did not mention any of those. And then because during the prosecutor team, so the direct, she confirmed, she said, if I would have known that the purpose of this wire is not prescribed as what it described in this email that's sent to me, I would actually flag to my superior. Okay, and whether that action would trigger the Morgan Stanley completely stop the wire, we don't know, right? Because there's other steps to take. But that's what she said in the direct. So when it comes to cross, our defense is very effective, very efficient, established, and ask her to read the original email and ask her, does this statement sounds tentative, and does possible sounds like this the plan might change, and does the plan to purchase sounds like a perspective? And she agreed to any of those questions. So she said yes, yes. And then it comes to on her own summarize of the statement, and she did admit that she omits those details. And she was in a position to ask for more information. If she is not satisfied, she was not satisfied at the time, but it was asked her, did you ask for more information? Did you ask for to see the loan agreement that they say there is a replay? No. Was Morgan Stanley in the position? Was Morgan Stanley able to ask? She said, yeah, they were, but they didn't. Okay, so they let this wire go, which it shows you it's a normal transact of business and nothing wrong with it. But the prosecutor team again wanted to insinuate something wrong with it. But at the end of the day, the evidence speaks for itself.
I think one of the basics is if we look at all of the wire transfers or the financial statements that they want to pull up, right? None of these accounts were actually under Mr. Guo's name.
Yeah.
None of these accounts were actually
Correct.
under any of these defendants' name.
Correct.
And with all of the entities that were mentioned, there were CFOs, there were financial persons who managed to open accounts for the business. There were actual ultimate beneficial owners of the entities, which were not, any of these defendants. And so when names were mentioned, it always come to the basics, right? Mr. Miles Guo never wired any of these amount to any other the entities that were mentioned. However, we saw, evidences coming in from the government side, and it was always that, people were questioning about the purpose of such wire. And it's interesting to see, how, the witness from Morgan Stanley actually summarized the email that, the employee of G Clubs sending over to the bank to confirm the purpose of the wire. And it seems to be, now the point came to whether the summary actually reflects on the actual purposes of the company's wire. And so I think that was interesting to see, how the defense were actually able to mention that sharp point. And so Kevin, I understand that Elizabeth, the witness who appeared in the court today, was not the only one who came to testify from a banking, background. And so when you observe all of these all of these witnesses who actually came from a banking background, were there similarities that you observe from all of these witnesses that was brought by the government?
Well, I mean, I believe that the first witness we had from a banking background was Haitham Khalid. And then the next ones were, I believe, Sam Roberts. He was
And Jamie Wilson.
Jamie Wilson, as well as the Mercantile CEO, Bo Collins. And I mean, they were definitely more involved within this case, because some of them actually met, talked to the defendants, as well as with some of the employees at G Clubs or all the other entities. But I believe that, especially this witness, Elizabeth, she was definitely more localized in terms of her knowledge, and so she could only testify to what she knew. Like we mentioned before, the same strategy in the prosecution's playbook, and it just same, right? Prosecution tries to paint a picture for the jurors. The jurors sees it for what it is, and then it's the defense's turn to clear it up, right? And so it's something that I'm sure the jurors are aware of now, and you can tell by the reaction. It's a pattern.
Yeah, it's a pattern.
You can tell by the reactions. When the defense does their cross, the jurors are very attentive. They sit up properly. They take notes. They listen in. And when you compare it to the prosecution's, direct questioning, the jurors are very, they're sort of like scratching their heads. They're like doing this sort of, right? And so we can see their reactions on what they're thinking. And the jurors are, I believe, fed up with the prosecution.
I wanted to add one thing. I think this is a common. I'm going to share with what Elizabeth shared at the second testimony of the second witnesses, because there is another wire. This wire was wired out based on the request of Alex H, with the controller of the G Club operation, in July, at the end of the July 29th, 2021. But unfortunately, Morgan Stanley failed sending it to the designated receiver, and it got returned. So it was returned, but Alex was inquiring why the money has not coming back, because it's returned, right? So Alex H, the G Club employee, written a email to the lady. So, and the answer that the Morgan Stanley gave is something like this. I'm just summarizing. It's not direct quote or anything. It's basically just said the account is locked. Okay, and this account right now is being basically designated only can receiving and non-third-party incoming wire. That means this bank account in Morgan Stanley of the G Club operation can only receive money from another G Club entity. They have to be in the same name. Okay, even though Morgan Stanley failed to send the wire in the first place to a third party, but when they return the same wire, the same route, they say no. So something happened in the week of July 29th to August the 5th. And during the cross, it came across, this question clicked for everybody, because our counsel, Scott, asked, do you know how bank reacts to a subpoena? Here we go. So now the subpoena, the words jumps out almost a lot of witnesses. We know now all the difficulties whether it's a Princeton Bank, whether it's Mercantile Bank, whether it's the BitGo, okay, the party that evaluating us after receiving subpoena and then terminated the relationship with Himalaya Exchange after the government is basically after Miles was arrested, right? And so did yesterday the former CEO of the G Club said she resigned in March right after Miles Guo was arrested, and G Club bank account was closed after subpoena was received. So all of this, basically there's single one trigger. What is a trigger? Everybody now figure out, right? Just from this question, we know again, it is the United States of government.
Right. Well, I want to make it very clear, right? We're not attacking the government. We're not trying to say that, all of these problems. Obviously, the government has its own right to conduct an investigation, to send out subpoenas to any of the related parties that they believe. But the problem is we do see a pattern in our history that when third-party agents, whether it's, collaborating partners with Himalaya Exchange, such as BitGo, or some of the banking institutions that holds accounts of these entities, they receive the same level of pressure when subpoenas were received in these institutions. And it was starting from that point, the account now gets locked, and it's strange that even a failed wire could not get returned into the same account. It was not even saying that your account is frozen, you cannot receive the wire. It's almost saying that the wire is now on a third-party intermediary location because of the pressure of a subpoena. I think that was, where the strange point stands. On the other hand, we could actually very easily observe all of these reactions that these banking institutions react with the subpoena. And so, were there any other communications that were being presented in the court? Once the subpoena was received, what other testimony that our defense was able to make the witness elicit in the court today?
So there's a few more questions regarding subpoena, but the witness basically said, I don't know and no. So for example, do you know Morgan Stanley received a subpoena? She couldn't confirm because that's above her. So she said, no, I don't know. And then there's other question, if you received a subpoena, what your compliance department flag the client who has just got a subpoena from the government, and she couldn't answer. She said she doesn't know. So, but from this we understand this is the pressure that coming from the U.S. government, and we understand that because this is a business reputational risk, right? For like a BitGo, for Mercantile Bank, and it's also personal risk for a former CEO of G Club and for a former whatever the so-claimed victims, right? They're afraid. They basically, they were subpoenaed, some of them signed non-prosecution agreement exactly for the purpose because they didn't even know what's going on, but they're afraid of being charged. And that came across so clear in Lee Marie, the CEO of the G Club, right? So that is why I think we see a pattern. And as you said, yeah, we definitely respect the U.S. government. They have the rights, right? They have to basically uphold justice and protect, American and American companies' interests. So they have the rights to do investigation. But what we are saying is everything happened and everything linked together. So we see a much bigger picture, and we want to present the picture to the audiences so you basically know what's going on and where you need to look into further, right? So
right. Yeah, I think the point is, once we saw and read through all of these testimonies, it was very clear that even with, a client associate who came from Morgan Stanley, she was actually not the one who controlled how compliant the account could be. She was the only, the front faces of the bank to communicate with the employee of G Clubs. So there were parts that she couldn't be able to explain in the court, even when, questions were asked, because she was only the front face. And I think, one of the main reasons and the main explanations that our defense team tried to dig in was about how Morgan Stanley actually revealed the compliance level of our account in Morgan Stanley, and these questions were not being able to be asked by the witness. It was very clear about her title, her position, and the job description that she had. And so it appeared to me that specifically with the second witness, that the government was still trying to put the emphasis on the wires and trying to leave an impression with the jurors, saying saying, hey, the bank received
Yeah.
a subpoena, some strange things must have happened. This is exactly why, the wire was got frozen, the account could only be put out there. And so how could, and I assume, with the second witnesses, it almost reached to the lunch break, right? So,
Yes.
and so, what are the backgrounds of the witnesses that you guys observed in the afternoon? I understand that they also came with an FBI agent background,
Yes.
but what specific area that they were working on, and how were they related to the case, Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, in the morning we had an FBI agent as well as the bank associate you just mentioned, and then after lunch we had another FBI agent, and then after that it was another FBI agent.
Yeah.
And I'm not aware as to what the FBI agent did after lunch, but as far as I know, it's the exact same thing. They're going over photo evidence, right, documents, and he was just testifying to the best of his knowledge. And then after that, the next FBI agent, he was a special agent. He actually just started in March of this year, 2024.
Wow.
So he's completely
Yeah.
new to the
Wow.
job. Yeah.
Probably still on job training.
Yeah. Yeah. And so he was in the department, I believe, OS4.
Yeah.
And it's basically conducts background investigation.
Yes.
And so as usual, he's just testifying to photos and and documents and what he knew at the time of the scene. And so there was no actual substance or actual important testimony. It's just very surface level, very high level testimony.
Right. Well, it surprised me, when they asked for a very new joined FBI special agent to testify in the court, because obviously, even with some agents who actually participated in the search, right? Because it happened a year ago, and I'm pretty sure that lots of their testimony could only rely on the notes and the internal records that they have. And so, Ava, do you want to give us more details about the third witnesses?
Yeah, I agree with Kevin's assessment, although there's not a lot of circumstances, but in a way, from a different angle, it tells a huge story. And I want to let the audience be aware of it. So let's first talk about the first witness in the afternoon. And so before we finish the second witnesses, there is actually a recross. So I just want to mention our lawyer asked the banker, the customer service associate from Morgan Stanley, one more question. Because remember the email talk about loan repayment program, okay? Because was trying to explain the purpose of one of the wires. So our lawyer said, do you know the loan has a 10-year term repayment program? The answer is no. Okay, that's finished. The reason why I want to mention this is because in the third witnesses, which is from FBI, and she actually also speaks to this facility agreement, which showed us what is the amortization schedule about loan payment, which is perfect, and I will share with you in detail. So this witness is named Jocelyn, first name Reyes, and she has been working for FBI for 2 years and 4 months. And she is in a position of forensic accountant. So basically, she does a lot of accounting review, accounting audits, and do some forensic analysis and reporting. So what she came across the information, she was approached by the prosecutor team just a week prior. So she literally only had 6 days, I guess, to basically prepare. And she confirmed that she only made very minor stylistic suggestions to the prosecutor team, which we're not sure whether the prosecutor team took the suggestion or not. I don't remember if she confirmed that, but that's not important. So she testified. Main purpose of her testimony is to basically paint a how do I say that, a lay of the land of the banking trial for the wire for purchasing the remember the Ferrari FXXK Evo car, like an EVO car, and it's a race car. It's in $4 million. So basically, she was asked to follow the prosecutor team, prosecutor Murray's lead, and she basically answered the question of Murray's and basically paint all the audit trail they built on this PPT. Basically, it shows that the money was first wired from G Club operation. a Morgan Stanley bank account, and then to another UK receiver beneficiary, which is Fiesta Develop, which I just mentioned about the wire that conducted by the Morgan Stanley lady. And then they showed that from Fiesta Property Development, they moved out money to purchase the Ferrari at Beverly Hill. The car dealership is Passion Rosa LLC. So they kind of established the trail for the purchase. So that's basically what she has done. But she does not know for finishing her testimony, and she was asked, you know, how many discussion you had with the prosecutor team, and she said it was 3 to 4 times, and she doesn't know anything other than what was given to her, because she was only given the bank accounts that was shown on the documents that was used today. So she didn't basically testify for the contextual knowledge of what's going on. She doesn't know any of the company. She has no clue what's G Club or what's the dealership. So that's basically her testimony was really quick. So the direct is only less than 40 minutes, I think. Wow. 30-40 minutes, and then we moved to cross. So when cross taken over, we kind of are going to a little bit detail. Basically showed none of this payment related to Miles Guo. Okay, so this is basically coming to do with her, and Miles's name was mentioned because Miles was in communication with a Ferrari. I think it was Italy. Remember that from the previous testimony from the California Beverly Hill car dealership, he was talking about that the order of the Ferrari was coming from the Italian, the headquarters. So Miles was communicating with the headquarters and expressed interest in looking for a specific model of the car. And then one of the email that basically later on was showed was actually they find this model. But in this testimony, in this witness testimony, in the witness number 3, our cross brought up the facility agreement, okay, which is the loan agreement that the Morgan Stanley, the previous witness, was helping wire the money 3 times in 3 portions. So, and remember the email that Alex sent it to her explaining this is a loan agreement. There is attached, loan repayment proposals. So what in the cross was showing is exactly the amortization table of payment of that loan. Okay, so they confirmed, asked this lady to confirm, do you understand what is amortization? Yes. She said actually no. And then does this reflect payment of the loan? And she said yes. Okay, and then she was asking some of the information on this schedule. For example, origination date. So origination date is January 1st, 2021. And then ask her, what's the first payment date in this contract? And guess what? The first payment date is January 1st, 2023. So the bank account in Morgan Stanley was closed in the summer of 2022. Shortly after the return, why I guess not much time left, they closed the G Club account in Morgan Stanley. So this lady would have no way of knowing whether the payment was paid back, because the first payment is basically prescribed here is January 1st, 2023. Okay, so and then it also mentioned about the initial period. There's a number which is reflecting 10 years, and she did confirm. The witness said, yeah, it is 10 years loan payment. So this cleared out the previous question left. And also when she was asked about, do you know who is the owner of the G Club? Do you know who is the owner of Fiesta? She has no clue, right? She only examined the bank accounts and the agreement that the prosecutor team provided to her. And then when it comes to Ferrari purchase, so our cross brought up a bill of sale, I think, and also a wire transfer from the bank account in Fiesta Development, Property Development in Metro Bank. So basically, she asked, because the Ferrari was selling this car to an entity. It's called Still We Rise Incorporated. So do you know what Still We Arise? She said, no, I have no clue. I have no idea. Do you know G Club is a subsidiary of Still We Arise? No, I don't know. So basically through the cross, we know that they are related entities. They are subsidiaries. And then cross asked, do you know all the transfers are happening in the same family kind of a corporation? And she said, I don't know. Okay, so none of this she's aware of. So it tells you that a lot of those transfers are within the subsidiaries of parent company, and the owner decides what to go, where to go, and because the owner, the G Club, the owner is Mr. He, right? And she owns the G Club operation, which is a membership payment company based in Puerto Rico, and he also the ultimate benefit fishery owner of the international G Club International Limited BVI, right? So all of those information, this person has no clue. Okay, so then it did come across very clear that let me see, this is a highlight of this. Oh, there's another one, because she doing the direct. This third witness testified a transfer of 500,000, which is a deposit for Ferrari, and this was from the Wells Fargo bank account of the Fiesta Development Property and to the Beverly Hill, the car dealership. However, she did not actually see the bank statements. Okay, but she only confirmed, she said, I saw something in an email that describing the transfer of this happened, but she did not actually given the bank statements of Wells Fargo. So then when the cross asked her, do you know, prior to this transfer is wiped out from Wells Fargo, what are the money coming in? Do you know that? She said, I have no clue. So she's the defense has shown that this witness has very, very limited, knowledge. Kind of a knowledge, segmented knowledge of what's actually being shown here. So that's pretty much on the second witness. So the last witness speaks to, I think the last witness really shows a huge picture, because as Kevin mentioned, his name is Jacob, and he's new in FBI, and he is specialized in FBI OS4 unit background investigation. So what he did is he reviewed a lot of email exchanges, photographers, charts that prepared by the prosecutors, and which he testified today. And the charts is basically emails, a sender and subjects and main body and pictures or attachments of the emails. So they're going through the documents as the prosecutor team, as the prosecutor pointed out for him. So one of the things it's very strike me, okay, because in one of the previous witness today, the first one, the first witness, FBI, the photographer, she actually was taken a photo, and then I'm jumping a little bit, sorry, but in order to give you a full picture of what I'm trying to say. So the first witness, the lawyer asked her to read the heading of one of the photos. It is actually all the companies. Okay, so it's GTV, G Club, FMV, I can't get her, like all the companies, tons of them. And then, so I'm jumping back. So she read it, but she doesn't know any of those things. But now I'm coming is this FBI agent, the fourth witnesses, he basically sent subpoena to Google. Okay, so he obtained all email address, I think, from Milesome. So basically, Google provided tons of, I would say it's invasion of personal privacy. So today, Milesome has no personal privacy at all, because we see his photo, we see all the email communication that they summoned, we see his family photos, and a lot of information, his address, his passports, none of them are redacted. I mean, I feel it's a grave violation of his privacy, because there's no reason for that information to show, because they only read one thing about it, right? But his personal residential address in UK and every basically address, even the address in Connecticut where Miles School and his wife and daughter where they live, and the address is fully showed. But what I wanted to say is, if they have gone through so much into weeds to try to find some dirt, okay, and a family funds that has more than like 100 family members and have billions basically assets, right, around the world, and with so many companies, and this is all you can find. I'm surprised. You can't find dirt basically. This Miles Guo, Miles' son is so clean. The only email they can find from the Google was a Dyson insurance email. and which showed a address of Kinetic, where Miles lives and his wife live, right? So this has surprised me. They tried so much and they have so long to prepare this, like a March 15th, 2023 to May 20th. Like they had over a year to prepare the case, and they have all the authorities and power in their hands, and they basically subpoena everybody and get Google to comply, and this is all they can find. And so that's why I say what they didn't say tell me a lot. You can't find anyone more cleaner than Miles and Guo and Miles Guo and Guo family.
Right. I think that, the interesting point, especially with the testimony of FBI agents, is it seems to me that all of these FBI agents, they do their own part, right? With the forensic accountant, she was not the one to understand the context. She was only the one who to reveal, to examine the wire, the designated wires. So even when more information were being questioned in the cross-examination, she could not answer any of these contextual questions or even, informations before and after the wire. She was only the one who actually saw, okay, there was one wire coming from one company to another, and that was it. And so, it reminds me of, previous FBI agents who actually testified that even the PowerPoint was not edited by her, by the
That's
witness,
right. Yeah.
he, himself, that, the prosecution team prepared the PowerPoint for the witness so that they could testify in the court. And so there were patterns and those subtle details that were captured by the defense team and by every public spectators in the court. So we understand, what strategy was being used by the government. And, I was very surprised to hear Ava say, all of these private communications, privacies about Miles and Guo, Mr. Miles, son, got revealed in the court. Remember, his children, none of his children were defendants of this case. So there was no point to demonstrate such large scale of his privacy information in the court,
that's right.
Right? Because Milson is not a defendant in the case. And so even if, the government, was trying to present certain things, I think there was an extent where people will question, was it worth it doing so?
Yeah.
And, what was the ultimate purpose of presenting such large scale of privacy information? So I want to mention actually one detail that was probably not relevant to this case, but 10 years ago, in 2014 June, Mr. Miles' son, Milson, was actually jailed by the Chinese Communist Party in the past, simply because the Chinese Communist Party wants to use him to testify against a CCP official. And so it was the very first time that CCP's hands reached out to Guo families. And it took, Milson lots of time to recover from all of the disasters and the traumas that he received in the jail. And 10 years after, the CCP's pressure, prosecution, and all of these, just the efforts of how the Chinese Communist Party wants to attack Mr. Guo's family still exist. And this marked how strong, all of Mr. Guo's families are. They're still fighting for the cause. They're supporting their father, Mr. Miles Guo, and millions of Chinese people now join the cause. So, imagine, right, for 10 years, you're living under the power and the tyranny and all of these prosecution and life risks every single minute.
Yes.
Even if we speak, right? Imagine that the passport, residential address, even every email of your account was being revealed in the court. It gives people, it was almost like how Chinese Communist Party had done to Chinese people, right? It makes you, when national security team came to our supporters' home, threatened their families, it was the same.
Yeah.
The CCP's national security team came to supporters' house saying that we had your communication, we know who you called, who you emailed to, we have information about every wire transfer that you made. It was the CCP tactic.
That's
basically.
Right. When you have power for so long and when you enjoy those power, it's very hard to not abuse it. Actually, I respect the power of the government, but I think this is really concerning in terms of how pervasive this investigation on Miles and Guo is. And also from yesterday's, the other witness, the former CEO of G Club, right? It's the same thing. When they entering the non-prosecution agreement, when her lawyer was talking to the prosecutor team, and she was asked to leave multiple times. And she was under the impression that she didn't do anything wrong in the initial couple meetings with the prosecuting team, but something happened in the process that made her change her own mind, made her doubt what she did previously. Okay, so I think there are something here that we need to pay really close attention, which is how do we prevent the possible abuse of power in the process of upholding justice, right? I think prosecutor team need a reminder as well, and we do wanted to have a different perspective on this topic, but we respect their authority and their power to do their own job.
Right,
Yeah.
right, exactly. And so, Kevin, tell us about your general impression, because obviously you've attended trial for quite several weeks, and just as someone who's very new to the court, and now you're getting more knowledge about the trial. Tell us about your feelings, your impressions, and everything you learned.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very grateful to have experienced these, past few weeks in the trial in the courtroom, and really getting to learn more about the rule of law in the United States, and how completely different it is to the CCP system. And the reason why we here at NFSC do what we do is to expose the evils of the CCP and prevent that type of system from coming into the United States, right? We're trying to wake Americans up, and just from what I've experienced these past few weeks, getting to see the prosecution questioning, the defense's chance to back themselves up and paint a different picture. It's just such a great system that allows everyone a due process, fairness and equality, even in the court system, where here you are determined, you're proven. I mean, you're innocent until proven guilty, right?
That's
Where
right.
in the CCP system, you're basically guilty, right? Like I mentioned before, it's all a show, right?
Yeah.
But here, this is actually a system that's designed for the defendant, to be able to stay innocent until proven otherwise. And so that's something that I believe all human beings deserve, and just getting to actually experience the system is something that I'll always remember forever.
Right, right. I think even even with the fact that Mr. Miles Guo was able to wear suits, different suits every single day,
That's right.
marks how different it is from the United States to China. Because like Kevin said, right, everything that you saw on the CCP court was pre-scripted. It was a show trial. It was not even the trial itself. And with all of the defendants, whether it was actually criminal or a civil case, when you were put on trial, you were already found guilty by the government. The prosecutor is the judge, and right, in China, in CCP court, the prosecutor is the judge and the judge is the juror. So no one else would be able to determine your destiny once you were put by the Chinese Communist government on that spot. So I think this is primarily why it's very important, and I do appreciate every and one of our supporters who actually attend the trial and bring us the information, because it was the very first time for Chinese people, at such large scale, to learn through and to experience, physically experience the United States, justice system. It is, part of our journey to bring democracy, freedom, and rule of law back to China. And so everybody, please shout out to you and all of us, who support the new federal state of China. A special thanks to Ava and Kevin and our Max today. I also want to thank Jeremy for featuring our show today at LA Fade TV. And thanks to all of the Rumble family's supporters. Remember, we're new federal state of China. Our sole mission is to take down the evil Chinese Communist Party. Please join us, support us, and pray for Miles. We believe in his innocence, and we know that Miles is the strongest man that you will ever see, in this planet. He will fight for his innocence. He will fight for the cause and all of the determination to eliminate the evil CCP. So we will work together. We will fight together. We will see each other at tomorrow, 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.